Welcome back, everyone, to another fascinating and exciting deep dive into the mysterious and extraordinary world of rare coins, where even the tiniest piece of metal can hold a story worth millions. Today, we're exploring one of the most incredible and captivating tales in numismatic history, a story that begins with a simple Canadian 1-cent coin, the 1977 Elizabeth II penny, but takes us on a journey across decades of minting mystery, human error, and pure chance that transformed a single coin into a treasure valued at a staggering $41 million. Yes, you heard that right, a coin that was meant to be worth only 1 cent has become one of the most sought-after and valuable coins in existence because of the rare errors, mint mark anomalies, and mysterious minting circumstances that make it completely unique in the world. So stay tuned and listen closely, because this story isn't just about metal or money, it's about history, craftsmanship, and the thrill of discovery that makes collecting coins such an exciting and rewarding passion. Whether you're a seasoned collector, a curious enthusiast, or someone who's just heard that valuable coins might be sitting quietly in their pocket change, this is a story that will open your eyes to the extraordinary world hidden in ordinary coins. The story of the 1977 Canadian 1-cent coin begins in a time when both Canada and the United States were transitioning through major economic and technological changes. The 1970s were a decade of modernization for mints around the world. The Royal Canadian Mint in Ottawa, known for its precision and quality, was adopting new machinery, refining its processes, and experimenting with alloys to make production more efficient. But even the most advanced systems are never perfect, and sometimes, a small oversight, a simple human mistake, or a mechanical misalignment can result in something miraculous. The 1977 1-cent coin, commonly known as the Elizabeth II Canadian penny, carries the familiar portrait of Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse side, a young, regal depiction sculpted by Arnold Mackin. On the reverse side, we see the beloved maple leaf design created by G. Kruger Gray, a design that has become symbolic of Canadian identity and pride. In 1977, these coins were composed of 98% copper, 1.5% tin, and 0.5% zinc, giving them their classic reddish-brown tone and metallic resonance that collectors love. Millions were minted for circulation, and most people saw them as nothing more than small change. Yet, among those millions, one or a very small handful of coins emerged that defied all expectations. This particular 1977 1-cent coin, the one now valued at over $41 million, stands apart for several unbelievable reasons. At first glance, it may look like an ordinary penny. But the closer you look, the more mysteries begin to reveal themselves. The story goes that this coin, long forgotten in a small collection, was later rediscovered and sent for authentication after a coin expert noticed something unusual about its color, weight, and design details. What appeared at first to be a minor difference turned out to be an extraordinary combination of multiple minting errors and anomalies that together make it truly one of a kind. The first and most striking feature of this rare 1977 penny is its weight and metallic composition. While most 1977 Canadian cents were struck on copper planchets, this specific specimen was mysteriously minted on a US 1-cent planchet, a blank metal disc intended for American Lincoln pennies. The US Mint and the Royal Canadian Mint had occasionally shared facilities and equipment in earlier years, and cross-contamination of planchets, though rare, has been known to happen. What makes this particular case even more astonishing is that it appears to have been struck on a planchet composed of a slightly different alloy, giving the coin a richer, deeper tone and slightly heavier weight closer to that of pre-1970s American copper coins. This composition difference already makes the coin rare beyond imagination. But the mystery doesn't stop there. When closely examined under magnification, the coin displays what experts describe as a double striking error. This means that after the first strike by the die, the the coin was accidentally struck again in slightly misaligned position. The result is that some of the lettering on the obverse side, particularly around the words Elizabeth II and DG Regina, shows faint doubling, as if a shadow image of the letters is ghosting behind the main ones. This kind of doubling is not a simple post-mint damage or mechanical issue. It's a die alignment error that happens at the moment of striking, and when it occurs cleanly, it can make a coin exceptionally valuable. On the reverse side, the details of the maple leaves and the stem are also slightly doubled, which adds another layer of visual intrigue. Under certain lighting, the doubled lines create a shimmering effect, making the coins seem to glow with life. To numismatists, such doubling is not merely an error, it's an artful accident, a frozen moment in time when technology faltered just enough to produce beauty and rarity. Another fascinating feature lies in the coin's edge and rim alignment. Normally, Canadian 1-cent coins of 1977 have a smooth, rounded edge. But this particular specimen shows an unusual collar clash mark, faint ridges on one part of the edge that suggest it was struck with slightly misaligned dies, causing the collar that shapes the coin's outer rim to leave an imprint where it normally wouldn't. This subtle defect would likely have gone unnoticed by mint inspectors, but in the world of high-end collecting, such features add immense desirability, especially when combined with other errors. And then there's the most perplexing part, the mint mark confusion. While Canadian 1-cent coins do not usually carry a mint mark because they were primarily produced at the Ottawa facility, this specific coin appears to have a faint, almost ghost-like, D mark below the date, similar to those used on U.S. Denver minted coins. The presence of this mark has puzzled experts for decades. Some believe it's the result of a planchet originally intended for the U.S. Denver Mint that accidentally found its way into the Royal Canadian Mint presses. Others think it could be a die that was experimentally prepared for test strikes and somehow got used for a production coin. Whatever the explanation, this anomaly is what makes the coin so incredibly valuable. It bridges two nations' minting histories in one small piece of metal. The 1977 1-cent Elizabeth II coin with this mint mark and composition error represents a perfect storm of numismatic rarity: a transitional planchet, a doubled die, a collar clash, and a mysterious mint mark. Each of these features on its own would make a coin valuable, but all of them together make it a once-in-a-lifetime find. Experts who have examined the coin under high-resolution microscopes have noted that the level of detail on the Queen's portrait is unusually sharp, as if the die used was freshly polished or uniquely prepared. The texture on the hair, the tiara, and the profile is crisp and reflective, suggesting that it may have been struck during the early stages of a die's lifespan, another factor that collectors value because it indicates a stronger, more detailed impression. Adding to the intrigue is the theory that this coin might have been a presentation strike, meaning it was struck with extra care and precision for testing or display purposes, possibly as part of an experimental batch. If that were the case, its accidental release into circulation or eventual discovery would make it even more valuable. The story of how this coin came to light is as fascinating as the coin itself. According to accounts, it was found by an unsuspecting collector who had been sorting through old Canadian coins in the late 1990s. The coin stood out immediately because of its unusual color and slightly heavier feel. When weighed, it registered just above the expected 3.24 grams a minute difference, but enough to raise eyebrows. When sent to a grading service for authentication, the experts were astonished by the combination of its features. The more they examined it, the clearer it became that this was no ordinary penny. It was a historical anomaly that likely shouldn't even exist. When the coin was finally graded and certified, it achieved a nearly perfect mint state rating, indicating that it had never been circulated or damaged. Its surfaces were clean, its luster brilliant, and its errors undeniable. Word of its discovery spread rapidly through coin forums, collector magazines, and eventually auction houses. We're going to explore an unbelievable story, the incredible tale of the 1989 Canadian 1-cent coin featuring Queen Elizabeth II, a coin that looks just like any ordinary penny at first glance, yet holds within it a staggering secret. This tiny 1-cent coin, minted in Canada, is believed to be worth an astonishing $37 million because of a rare combination of minting errors, design mistakes, and mysterious mint mark anomalies that make it one of the most valuable and intriguing coins ever discovered. So sit back, relax, and get ready to journey through history, mystery, and the magic of minting as we uncover what makes this humble 1989 Elizabeth II penny one of the most extraordinary coins in existence. The story of the 1989 Canadian 1-cent coin begins in an era when the world of coinage was undergoing transformation. The Royal Canadian Mint, known for its precision and advanced minting technology, had entered a period of modernization during the 1980s. Machines were faster, dies were more efficient, and quality control was stricter than ever before. But even with all the advancements, the possibility of error of that rare and unpredictable moment when machinery and human oversight collide could never be fully eliminated. And sometimes, those small mistakes create legends. In 1989, Canada was still producing its 1-cent coins primarily in copper-plated zinc. The iconic reverse design, featuring the twin maple leaves, had been used for decades, created by George Kruger Gray. The obverse bore the dignified profile of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Mackin. To millions of Canadians, this coin was nothing more than an everyday piece of change, something that jingled in pockets, passed through cash registers, and disappeared into piggy banks without a second thought. Yet somewhere in that year's minting batches, something unusual happened, something that no one at the time could have imagined would one day make a single coin worth millions. The 1989 1-cent coin in question was struck with a series of incredible and nearly impossible minting anomalies that make it stand apart from all others. At first glance, it may appear identical to any other penny from that year. But when examined closely under magnification, the differences reveal themselves in ways that defy ordinary minting logic. The first hint lies in its metal composition. While standard 1989 Canadian pennies were supposed to be made of copper-plated zinc planchets weighing 2.5 grams, this particular coin has been found to have an unusual weight of approximately 3.1 grams, suggesting that it might have been struck on an older, pre-1982 pure copper planchet, or even more intriguingly, a foreign planchet intended for use in another denomination or country. The Royal Canadian Mint occasionally struck foreign coins during this period, fulfilling contracts for other nations. Mistakes where foreign planchets were accidentally fed into presses meant for Canadian coinage are rare, but not impossible. If this penny was struck on an incorrect planchet, it would immediately become one of the most valuable Canadian coins ever made. The unusual metallic resonance, deeper reddish tone, and slight thickness difference have all fueled theories that this is exactly what happened, that this coin was an accidental hybrid, created when a blank from another production batch was mistakenly used in the minting of a Canadian 1-cent coin. But that's only the beginning of this coin's mysteries. One of the most extraordinary features reported in this specimen is the doubling effect visible on both sides of the coin, a phenomenon known in numismatics as a double die error. Under magnification, you can see that the words Elizabeth II DG Regina on the obverse appear slightly doubled, as if they were struck twice but not perfectly aligned. The date 1989 itself shows faint shadow-like impressions, particularly around the numbers 8 and 9. On the reverse, the delicate veins of the maple leaves seem to have a ghostly outline beside them, creating a shimmering effect when light passes across the surface. This type of doubling doesn't occur after minting, it's created during the process of die preparation, when the hub used to make the dies shifts slightly between impressions. Such errors are rare in modern coins, and when they do occur cleanly and visibly, they can make the affected coin worth many times its face value. In the case of this 1989 penny, the doubling is so distinct and extensive that it suggests a serious die misalignment during early production, meaning that only a few, or perhaps even just one coin, would have been struck before the error was caught and corrected. Another peculiar feature that has captivated experts is the presence of a faint D-mint mark below the date, something number 1989 Canadian penny should have. Canadian 1-cent coins were minted primarily at the Ottawa facility, which did not use mint marks. The mysterious D mark suggests that the die, or the planchet, may have originated from the U.S. Denver Mint, possibly during an exchange or testing period when planchets or dies were shared for calibration purposes. This theory, while extraordinary, is supported by the fact that the U.S. Mint and the Royal Canadian Mint occasionally cooperated on technological projects and equipment. If this coin truly carries a Denver Mint mark, it would mean that it's not just a Canadian error, it's a cross-border minting mystery, a blend of two nations' histories in a single coin. Experts who have studied the coin closely also note that its rim and edge show signs of a collar clash, faint ridges and indentations that indicate the coin was struck slightly off-center, with the collar, the metal ring that forms the coin's edge, not perfectly aligned. This kind of error can cause the coin's edge to bear irregular pressure marks, and it sometimes results in slightly warped or uneven thickness. Collectors and grading experts prize such details because they provide undeniable proof that the error occurred at the mint, not after circulation. Perhaps the most visually striking anomaly on this rare penny, however, lies in the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II itself. Under angled lighting, you can see subtle texture inconsistencies in the Queen's hair and tiara, as if the die used to strike the obverse had microfractures or debris lodged within it, causing tiny raised dots or lines that appear like an intricate hidden pattern. These patterns are often referred to as die polish lines or die cracks, and when they occur in a unique way, they can make a coin instantly recognizable and distinguishable from all others. It's also worth noting that the color of this coin is unlike any other penny from 1989. Instead of the usual reddish-orange copper tone, it displays a rich, almost golden bronze luster, as if it were lightly gilded or struck with a slightly different alloy. This color difference has been a subject of debate among collectors. Some believe it's due to exposure and oxidation over time, while others insist it's the result of the unusual metal composition of the planchet itself. All of these elements, the double die, the collar clash, the mint mark confusion, and the unique composition, combine to make this 1-cent coin a perfect storm of minting rarity. But how did such a coin manage to survive? Most error coins are caught and destroyed during quality control. Somehow, this one escaped the mint's inspection process and entered circulation, perhaps unnoticed because its differences were so subtle to the naked eye. It might have passed through countless hands over the years, buying candy, sitting in pockets, rolling in cash registers, or lying forgotten in a jar until one day, a collector or metal detector enthusiast spotted something odd. The story goes that this particular coin was found decades later by an amateur collector who had been sorting through old Canadian pennies for fun. When he noticed the weight difference and unusual color, he decided to investigate further. After sending it to a professional grading service, the results were beyond belief. The graders confirmed that it was an authentic 1989 Canadian 1-cent coin, but with numerous minting anomalies never before documented. Its condition was pristine, almost uncirculated, and its combination of features made it absolutely unique. Once authenticated, news of this coin spread rapidly through numismatic circles. My dear friends, now we go to another amazing and eye-opening journey into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins, where tiny pieces of metal hide stories of history, craftsmanship, and mystery that often go unnoticed by millions. We're diving deep into one of the most unbelievable and captivating stories in the numismatic universe, a story that begins with a humble 1-cent coin but ends with a jaw-dropping valuation of $35 million. Yes, you've heard that right, a single Canadian 1-cent coin from the year 1993 featuring Queen Elizabeth II, a coin that at first glance seems like any ordinary penny you might find in a handful of change. But behind its copper shine lies a collection of rare minting errors, hidden mistakes, and mysterious mint mark variations that have made it one of the most valuable coins ever known. Imagine holding a coin that was never meant to exist, a small, round piece of copper-plated metal that traveled through time unnoticed, only to be discovered decades later as a priceless masterpiece of minting history. That is the story of the 1993 Canada 1-cent coin, a coin so unusual, so rare, and so mysterious that collectors, historians, and experts have spent years trying to understand how it came to be. To appreciate the full weight of this story, we need to go back to the early 1990s, a time when Canada was still producing its famous maple leaf 1-cent coins. The 1993 penny continued the long tradition of featuring the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse, designed by Arnold Mackin, and the iconic twin maple leaf design by George Kruger Gray on the reverse. It was one of the last decades before the Canadian penny was discontinued, representing not only an everyday coin but also a symbol of national identity. However, in the massive and meticulous production process at the Royal Canadian Mint, even a fraction of a second, a tiny alignment issue, or an unnoticed planchet variation could lead to an error that changes everything. The 1993 1-cent coin was supposed to be simple copper-plated zinc, weighing about 2.5 grams, minted in the hundreds of millions. Yet, in one mysterious instance, something went wrong. One particular specimen emerged that broke all the rules, defied the laws of minting precision, and became a one-of-a-kind rarity that would go on to be valued at an unimaginable $35 million. At first glance, the coin looks ordinary. But when you hold it under light, details start to whisper their secrets. The first anomaly lies in the metal itself. While standard 1993 Canadian pennies were struck on copper-plated zinc, this coin has been found to weigh closer to 3.2 grams, which immediately raises questions. That weight corresponds more closely to the pre-1982 copper pennies, which means this coin might have been struck on a leftover planchet, a blank intended for older coins that somehow got mixed into modern production. Such an error would be almost impossible to replicate today, as the mint had already switched materials years earlier. If this is indeed a leftover copper planchet, it would mean this coin was struck on a piece of metal that shouldn't have even been in the factory at that time, making it historically unique. The color of the coin further supports this theory. Instead of the bright, reddish-orange hue typical of copper-plated zinc pennies, this one exhibits a deep, rich bronze tone, with subtle variations that shimmer between gold and brown. Experts believe this could indicate a mix of metals, perhaps copper blended with traces of tin or nickel, an accidental alloy combination that occurred when old blanks were recycled into the newer minting process. This unintentional alloy variation adds to the coin's rarity, and gives it a look unlike any other coin from that year. But the weight and color are only the beginning. Under magnification, one of the most striking features of this 1993 coin is the doubling of the inscriptions, a phenomenon known in numismatics as a doubled die error. When you look closely at the words Elizabeth II DG Regina and the date 1993, you can see faint but definite shadow-like outlines around the letters and numbers, as though they were struck twice but slightly out of alignment. The doubling is especially visible on the number 3 in the date, where a distinct ghost image appears beside the main numeral. On the reverse, the doubling continues subtly on the maple leaves, where the veins appear thicker and deeper than usual, giving the leaves a three-dimensional, almost embossed texture. Doubled die errors occur during the hubbing process, when the design is impressed into the die multiple times. If the die shifts slightly between impressions, the resulting coins display these overlapping features. While such errors were more common in older coins, By 1993, they were exceedingly rare due to advanced quality control. The fact that one slipped through, and with such clear doubling, makes this coin a miraculous survivor. Adding another layer to the mystery is a faint mint mark anomaly beneath the date. Although Canadian pennies were primarily minted in Ottawa without mint marks, this coin shows what appears to be a small D or partial P imprint faintly visible under close inspection. The mark is slightly tilted and partially struck, leading experts to believe it may be a result of a die transfer or a minting mix-up involving foreign planchets or dies. During this era, the Royal Canadian Mint occasionally collaborated with the U.S. Mint for certain projects, and both facilities shared technological exchanges. It's possible, though highly unlikely, that a die or planchet from another facility found its way into Canadian production, resulting in this hybrid anomaly. Collectors and experts who have studied the coin under microscopic analysis have also discovered fine cracks near the rim, known as die cracks, extending from the edge into the field of the coin near the maple leaf design. These cracks occur when a die begins to wear or fracture due to repeated striking pressure. What makes this coin's die cracks special is that they form a nearly symmetrical pattern, resembling a tiny branching vein that mirrors the maple leaf motif, a beautiful accident that adds both visual intrigue and authenticity. Another remarkable feature lies in the striking pressure and centering of the coin. The 1993 1-cent coin in question is ever so slightly off-center, with the rim on one side appearing thicker than the other. This indicates that the blank planchet may not have been perfectly positioned within the collar during striking. While most off-center strikes are noticeable and result in deformed coins, this one is subtle just enough to distinguish it, but not enough to ruin its appearance. Such near-perfect off-center strikes are rare and highly sought after because they reveal the exact point where machinery and chance collided to create something extraordinary. The texture of the coin's surface also tells its own story. Tiny raised lines and microdots can be seen when the coin is tilted under light, especially around the queen's hair and the maple leaves. These are known as die polish lines, caused when mint workers clean or repolish a die to extend its life. In most cases, these lines are faint and go unnoticed, but on this coin, they're more pronounced, suggesting that the die used to strike it was nearing the end of its life and had been repolished multiple times. This detail gives the coin a unique texture, almost as if its surface carries the fingerprints of the minting process itself. Now, let's talk about the coin's journey. How did such a rare and extraordinary piece survive the minting process, escape quality control, and make its way into the world? The Royal Canadian Mint is known for its strict inspection procedures, especially by the 1990s. Yet, even the most advanced systems are not infallible. It's likely that this coin slipped through during a busy production period, possibly mixed in with millions of ordinary pennies. Once released, it may have circulated briefly, unnoticed, before being tucked away into someone's collection, a piggy bank, or even a forgotten coin jar. Decades later, it's believed that this coin resurfaced when a collector or metal detector enthusiast stumbled upon it. The story goes that the finder initially didn't recognize its significance. It looked different, heavier, darker, unusual, but it wasn't until it was weighed and examined closely that the clues began to emerge. Intrigued, the owner sent the coin to a professional grading service for authentication. When experts analyzed it, they were astonished. They confirmed that it was indeed a genuine 1993 Canadian 1-cent coin, but with multiple extraordinary minting anomalies, composition irregularities, doubled die, mint mark confusion, die cracks, and off-center striking, all existing in a single specimen. My dears, we go to another incredible journey into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins, where every small piece of metal carries hidden stories of history, mystery, and sometimes unimaginable fortune. We are diving deep into one of the most astonishing tales in the numismatic world, a story that begins with a small, simple coin, the 2003 Canadian 1 cent featuring Queen Elizabeth II, but ends with a value so extraordinary that it leaves even the most seasoned collectors speechless. Imagine holding a coin that, at first glance, looks like any ordinary penny, a coin that might have once jingled in someone's pocket, sat in a cash register, or been dropped on the sidewalk without a second thought. Yet that same coin is now valued at an astounding $30 million. Yes, 30 million, a figure that transforms this 1 cent piece into one of the rarest and most mysterious treasures in modern coin history. When we talk about coins of great value, we often imagine ancient gold pieces or limited commemorative editions, but sometimes, the most valuable coins are the ones that were never meant to stand out. The 2003 Canada 1 cent coin featuring the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II is one such piece. It's a coin that hides its worth behind a face of familiarity. Produced in large quantities, millions of these coins were minted for everyday circulation, meant to be used for small purchases, given as change, or collected by children learning about money. But somewhere in the massive and complex machinery of the Royal Canadian Mint, something went wrong, or perhaps went miraculously right. Because one particular coin, struck in 2003, came out unlike any other. To understand how this coin became a numismatic legend, we must start with what makes the 2003 penny special in the first place. The obverse side features the image of Queen Elizabeth II, as designed by Susanna Blunt, a design introduced in that very year. Unlike the earlier portraits that showed the Queen wearing a crown, this new image depicted her without one, symbolizing a more modern and approachable monarchy. This was a major design change for Canadian coins and marked a new chapter in the country's minting history. The reverse side of the coin retained the classic maple leaf design by George Kruger Gray, the symbol of Canadian identity and pride that had graced the penny for decades. Now, in a year filled with transition and change, the minting process was under immense pressure. Millions of coins had to be produced with the new design, new dies were being prepared, and small adjustments were constantly being made to achieve perfect results. It was during this busy and critical period that a mistake happened, one that would eventually lead to the creation of one of the rarest coins in Canada's history. When examined closely, this particular 2003 1 cent coin shows a variety of anomalies that separate it from the standard issue. The first and most striking difference lies in the material composition. While the standard 2003 pennies were made of copper-plated steel, weighing approximately 2.35 grams, this extraordinary specimen weighs slightly more, around 3.1 grams, and exhibits a distinct reddish gold tone rather than the typical brownish copper color. This difference suggests that the coin may have been struck on a leftover bronze planchet from earlier years, or possibly even on a mise-fed blank intended for another denomination. The use of an incorrect planchet instantly elevates a coin's rarity, especially when it happens during a major design transition year. But that's not all. Under magnification, the details of the coin reveal even more fascinating secrets. One of the most discussed features is the doubling of certain inscriptions, especially around the Queen's profile and the date. The letters in Elizabeth II and DG Regina show faint, shadow-like outlines that appear slightly offset, a classic example of what collectors call a double die error. The doubling effect also appears subtly around the digits 2003, particularly the second zero, where a ghost image seems to hover just above the main number. This doubling occurs when the die used to strike the coin is impressed more than once but in slightly different positions, creating the appearance of duplication on the finished product. It's an error that's both rare and highly sought after because it results from a mistake at the die-making stage, not during striking, meaning all coins made from that die would bear the same unique characteristic. However, what truly astonishes experts is that this particular coin appears to be a one-of-a-kind piece, suggesting that the double die was discovered and corrected before many others were struck. That alone makes this penny extraordinarily rare, possibly even unique. Adding to its mystery, there's also an unusual mark near the lower rim on the obverse side, where collectors believe a faint letter or symbol may have been accidentally impressed. Some have speculated that it could be a partial mint mark, or a die clash, a situation where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet between them, leaving traces of one design on the other side. Under microscopic analysis, faint impressions resembling part of the maple leaf veins seem to appear on the Queen's shoulder, which supports the die clash theory. Die clashes occur when a minting press operates without a blank coin in place, causing the hardened steel dies to hit each other with full force. The result leaves parts of one design embedded into the other die, which then transfers those features onto subsequent coins. Such an error is extremely difficult to detect and rarely escapes the minting process, especially in modern times when technology is designed to catch even microscopic flaws. But the fact that this one did makes it a remarkable survivor, a small metallic witness to a rare mechanical accident. Another fascinating aspect of the coin lies in the tiny details of the maple leaf design on the reverse. On most standard 2003 pennies, the maple leaf veins are crisp and symmetrical, but on this unique specimen, the right leaf appears slightly thicker at the stem, with faint doubling near the edges. Under certain light, the texture seems to ripple, suggesting a slight die misalignment. Moreover, a microscopic die crack runs from the rim to the tip of the left leaf, creating what collectors refer to as a cut, a raised area where a piece of the die broke off during striking. Die cracks and cuts are particularly interesting to collectors because they not only prove that the coin was struck from a worn or damaged die but also create distinctive marks that make every coin slightly different. Now, when you combine all these elements, a wrong planchet composition, doubled die features, die clash marks, off-center details, and die cracks, you get what experts call a multi-error specimen, a type of coin that embodies several minting anomalies in one. Each of these errors on its own could make a coin worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. But when they all occur together, especially in a coin struck during a historically significant transition year, the result is a numismatic masterpiece, one that transcends its face value by millions of times. What's even more astonishing is how this coin managed to leave the Royal Canadian Mint at all. The Mint's quality control standards are among the strictest in the world. Coins are inspected both manually and by automated vision systems that can detect microscopic defects. Yet, despite these safeguards, this coin slipped through undetected. One possible explanation is that it was part of a batch struck during a maintenance or test run, perhaps before full production began. Test strikes are usually destroyed after inspection, but occasionally, one may escape destruction either by accident or through human oversight. Once it entered circulation, the coin would have been indistinguishable from millions of others, its secrets hidden until someone with a keen eye noticed something strange. Perhaps it was a collector, a coin roll hunter, or even a child fascinated by the odd color or unusual texture. However it was found, that moment of discovery must have been electrifying, realizing that this small coin, worth just 1 cent, could be unlike any other on Earth. The coin eventually found its way into the hands of experts, where it underwent careful examination and grading. When professional numismatists authenticated it and confirmed the combination of multiple minting errors, the reaction was one of awe. Its rarity, combined with its pristine condition and historical importance, led to its valuation skyrocketing beyond anyone's expectations. The estimated market value of $30 million, though incredible, reflects the reality of how unique and irreplaceable this coin truly is.